Good evening, world. Coming to you live from the dirty South, Winston-Salem. And I have a guest from the great white north of Canada, Carlos. And I do have him on for a specific reason tonight. If you read my thing down there, he had a great video this week on the one of the first videos, the breaking news of the Panini losing out again. They're just getting crushed, and I'd like to get his take a little bit. I know he probably did a follow up Friday. I missed it, but we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. I will also probably talk a little bit about some grading things, new things. I know even PSA Canada has some great stuff this past week or week before. Yep. Which almost makes me want to get dual citizenship, like I said on your show. But let's start off. You said before we got on, you said you went to a card show today, and yeah, kamikaze. Said you picked up a card that you wouldn't mind sharing with us, and had a story behind, or
Sure, yeah. So they're running a card show. I want to say about every month, every 2 months, give or take, one or the other. They rotate through a couple different venues. The one they've got here it's at the edge of city limits. It's over on the side. It's a little bit out of the way, but it's not in a bad spot. It's a good space to try to do it. It's got plenty of room in it. It was busy. They combined it with the TCG thing, and they even had cosplayers and the whole thing. So, but the floor was full. Like I will say, the floor was full. So actually, that kind of turned me off of spending too much time looking. I know what most of those dealers carry anyway. To be honest, I can scan the tables really quick, but I scrolled through, and when I was looking, I was able to come across one of the tables that had something that it caught my eye. So this is right here. This individual, this person of ill repute, is actually a perfect person for me to talk about this. So I basically found, I think it was in the common bin or something, because this guy sucks. He's not any good. So we got Bobby Orr, game use autograph. I've never heard of this guy. I think he got the first NBA 3-pointer or something.
That's what I was getting ready to say. First NBA 3-pointer.
Yeah, he's some ham and egger. Never heard of the guy. But anyway, so they had it there, and I think I got him to. I had to talk to the guy, and I accepted $300 to take it because Lord knows no one wants it. So again, why anyone would ever get there? No, the guy gave me a price. The guy gave me a price. What's that?
That was perfect timing. We couldn't have timed
that. No, it's great. Look, as soon as Scott, I don't have to be running the chat. As soon as I see what it is, it's like I'll play into it. I'll play right into it. So anyway, bottom line, I saw it on the table, no price tags on it, and I asked the guy what he wanted, and the guy literally came probably about half of what I thought he was going to say, maybe less than half. Because the thing about this one, so this is 0304. The thing with this year is that they've got the jerseys and they've got autographs separately. The jersey autographs are numbered are limited to 10. The thing is, they're not numbered. So I know this series because I know it very well from the time I collected in 0304. The thing is, you can stare at the card as much as you want, and the label doesn't say anything about it. It's out of 10. So these are actually really tough to come by. So at the price the guy wanted for it, I was like, yeah, okay. I still tried to talk him down a little bit, just on principle, just so he doesn't get too suspicious. Right. Yeah, but he also, just so he doesn't get suspicious, because it's like if you just say, yeah, here you go. So I tried to talk him down a little bit. Ended up accepting it. So now I'll figure out what I'll do with it. I might just send Eric a picture of me setting it on fire. I heard that's cool.
Well, sometimes you want a double fist with two coasters in there. You might need a
it might make an excellent coaster.
I don't, that's a little thicker. It isn't a BGS instead of a tag. So
it is true. It is true.
Yeah. But
so that was a good buy for me. That potentially makes it a profitable show just by that. So, and I only ended up buying that, and the only other thing I picked up was more of a nostalgia thing for me. Not as exciting, but I picked up a box of 1992 O-Pee-Chee baseball.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
a little nostalgia for me. A little.
That's a right crisp box too. Jeez.
Yeah. Well,
that is
again
crisp.
In the same vein. I was Bobby from the show was there, and we hung out and chatted. But the thing is, when I was there. This was right at the end. I was going to grab this box just for nostalgic purposes. The guy was asking $50, which not terrible. I wanted to see if I could talk it down a little bit. So initially, I was going to offer him $40, but then he had two boxes, and one of them was dented. So I said, hey, would you take 35 for the dented one? Because I don't care. I'm gonna open the thing on the channel and pull the pack and take stuff out of the packs. But I
Right.
said, he goes, oh well, that one's got the Blue Jays on the back, because on the back they've got like these large cards on these. So
Yeah.
like this one is the
Oh, okay.
Pittsburgh Pirates.
All
So
right.
they
I've
did
never
a
seen
large one.
that backs.
Yeah, so they
Okay.
did it for like division winners and stuff, and they had the 91 Jays division winners, which is cool, obviously. But it was a dented box, and he was like, "Well, that one's got the Jays on it." I'm like, "So then, do you want 35 for the non-dented one?" And he's like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Okay, sure." And I'm like, "I'm just walking away now." This is a different style of negotiation than I'm used to, Scott. They start off with like, "I would have accepted this deal, but then you made it better,
Right.
and I didn't have to do anything. I'm going to
I
leave now."
almost would have said, I was waiting for you to say, like, came back with an offer of $25 for me to take it.
At a certain point, Scott, you just don't want to press your luck. Plus, I was like, I'm going to leave now. I'm going to get out of here. All right, cool, man. Sounds good. I already did well on the generic hockey player over there. We were fine.
Right.
So
Some
we're
guy.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
some dude.
Bobby or what? What? Or,
I never heard of him.
or,
Like I
yeah.
keep being told I keep being told by these people again of ill repute, that apparently he played hockey, Boston Bruins. Like that's even a real thing. Sounds made up to me.
Right. So, and you said it was a lot of people. Now I
Mhm.
know, I'm sure it's the same way there as everywhere else. It's pretty much the same group traveling around. That's why most of their goods. You go to a couple of
Mhm.
shows, you kind of got down what they got. Yeah, same thing. I've lived in the Midwest. Same. It's almost like a traveling carnival. It's the same group out here on the East Coast. Same way. Just a little bit different here. There's some guys that'll stay in the South and some guys that go stay in the North, and every once in a while you'll see some new stuff when somebody comes down, but little different. Uh, so I was hoping to have Mike. I know Mike's doing a lot of stuff here with his world. He's got a lot of irons in the fire. Uh, and I really wanted to touch on this last week a little bit, but we were running a little later than I was expecting to run. This is not a 4-hour show. This is just a little teaser for some other shows. Uh,
Weak.
yeah. So, but I know you keep up with grading, and you even do a little with PSA Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, that technically is over, but yes, I did. I did do
I
some
know,
PSA.
but you still have the man is
I
on your
have
show.
I know a guy. I know a guy. I
Yeah,
can pick
yeah,
up a phone right
and
now.
and
Guy.
that's
Yeah.
another reason why I have you on, because you're connected. Uh, but it's, to me, everybody wants to sit there and tell me like SGC came down on their prices and they're
Mm-hmm.
saying they're competing with PSA. I don't think they're really competing with PSA. I think they're trying to find their happy spot and just trying to find their lane to stay in and to maximize their money.
Yeah.
Is that the way you kind of feel too, or because everybody knows PSA, they do 1 million cards a month. You're not going to compete with that. You just got to
Yeah.
find what you're good at and stick with it.
Well, the thing is, it wouldn't work anyway. If PSA said, okay, fine, we'll do $10 a card.
Right.
So screw you. Like
Yeah.
they could do a loss leader for a little while, just drop the price right down and be like, all right, fine. But all these companies are looking for the happy medium, because I think
Mm-hmm.
SGC did about 100K the other month, so that's a good number for them. The only reason they did, if you notice, TCG, they dropped it down to I think $9, because they don't get a lot of TCG. They're trying to encourage, and that's why when I went to that show, the fact that they did TCG and they invited some TCG dealers specifically,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the kids were. There
Right.
were sports card dealers for sure, and there was a lot of. But if I go to a table and you're a kid and you're seeing, there were nice cards on there. It's not that there wasn't anything good, but I was
Mm-hmm.
scanning through. I even saw a table that had some nice Blue Jay cards and stuff. That was cool. Some Topps Dynasty. They're beautiful looking cards. They're really nice, but
Right.
they're like Vladdy Jr. $350, $400, $500, and I'm like, Vladdy's played okay, but I'm sitting there like I'm not paying
Right.
$500 for a generic Dynasty Vladdy Jr. card. By the way, they're
Right.
not game used relics, just to be clear. But when you're going through the tables, you're seeing it's nice eye candy. You're seeing nice stuff on there, but then you look at the sticker, and I'm like, yeah, there's not even a good spot to negotiate. But go to the table beside. What's funny is the table where I got this box. This table was 100% Pokemon except for 2 boxes of this. This was the only non-Pokemon thing on the box, and I'm like, why do you? I'm literally seeing Pikachu and all this other stuff over here. Why do you
Right.
even have 2 boxes of 1992 OPG baseball?
Right.
That's your one non-Pokemon thing? 2 boxes of 1992 OPG baseball? All right, dude. Sounds good.
Yeah. Down here we have a show in Hickory, and they do one room as sports and TCG, which overflows into the hallway, and then they got a sports card room, which is bigger than the other one. So they do well. It's huge, brings out everybody. And for somebody like me that does also picks up toys and other stuff that intrigues me, it's a great time. But yeah, these people just kind of find it with the TCG. You know, SGC is made a. I think it's whatever standard now. It's $9 or whatever for TCG. Everybody's trying to find their spot because
And just to
it
share with
just
you,
seems.
I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, okay.
I took a
Yeah,
picture just to get. That was just one
that's
segment of the room.
that's a packed house, and I know that's not first thing in the morning if you're there.
I got there before lunch, so that wasn't too
Oh,
bad. But
okay.
it stayed pretty good. I decided to make him. I wanted to get out of there fairly early, so I figured I'd pop down. Plus, Bobby likes to get there early, so I was
Right,
going to meet up with him and chat. Basically, we went to have lunch after, so it was
right.
perfect. And here's another picture from a little bit of a different angle. So this
It's
is
a
like
big room.
10:30, 11. It's not
Okay.
crazy. So I was like, all right, cool, man. I thought it was I thought it was pretty solid, and it stayed packed. It stayed consistent into the early afternoon. When we came back from lunch to do one more quick go around, it was solid. I thought it was good.
Yeah, and Juan Soto is quietly putting together a good season. Too
It's a
bad it's
solid
only.
number now.
Yeah,
What's interesting is that now, if you look at the end of the year, you're going to see. I think he said 33 homers. So, and I think he's at 105 RBIs or 106 or something like that, whatever it is. So now you're going to look. Okay, 33 home runs, not bad. 105, 106 RBIs, not bad. And I think he's hitting now about 270. So
right.
overall, you look at the stat line, you go, that's not bad. Seems good.
Right. And I mean, and me and my dad, we did a video today, which I'll post tomorrow, my weekly baseball video. We touch on that, how he brought up a stat for the Padres where they've lost 12 extra inning games they were in this year, and they're going to lose. They're going to be out of the playoffs by 4.5 games. So don't take a genius to do math to realize they had every chance in the world to be in the playoffs this year. So, yeah, it's just bad. Hopefully, you can get out of there. It doesn't look like it's a good place for him.
It
But
doesn't look, yeah.
yeah, and that was going to be something I wanted to ask you early on before we get into the meat of today. Being in Toronto and being in the craziness of fighting for a playoff spot, is it fun in the area right now for baseball fans in the Toronto area?
The vibe I get from the podcasts and call-in shows and stuff that I listen to a little bit here and there, the regular season I'm kind of over it. I don't pay that close attention to it, but I've been tracking. I've been tracking the
Mm-hmm.
standings. I think a lot of the local fans are frustrated with the inconsistency. They'll look
Mm-hmm.
at a team that will show like, oh yeah, they can beat anybody in the right sequence of things, and they're missing. But they'll have these runs of like really inexplicable games where they just won't be able to do anything. And at the same time, there was the whole frustration with the Alex Manoah thing
Mm-hmm.
because last year he was really good, and now he sucks, and he's not even reporting to work. So it's one of those things where it's like, so what do you do with him? Is he broken, or is it a personal issue, or like is it a combination of the above? So that's without one less guy that could be useful to you. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this week to wind down and see what's going on and for the playoffs. I'm excited for Toronto to be back in it. I know my friends, these Philly guys, are probably not as excited as I am to see them in, but I just want to see a little new blood, a little different postseason, and I think it would be fun to have Toronto in. because that could be just some fun. A lot of young talent on that team. I like to see some younger players in the postseason.
Mhm.
That really excites me. I always like to get the vibe. I was living in Iowa when Chicago won playoffs, which everybody's like, "Oh, you were in Iowa," but it's the AAA team is in Iowa, and it kind of is like the adopted area. So it was really fun to be in that
You
area.
talking the White Sox? The White Sox won?
No, the Cubs, when the
Oh,
Cubs
the Cubs in
finally won
16?
their,
Okay.
yeah, when they finally won their championship. So,
Which was still my
uh,
favorite World Series for no other reason than, well, someone has to win.
right,
It
exactly.
was that matchup. I was sitting there like, so either Cleveland or Chicago. Either way, some fan base is going to be like, oh my God, finally.
Right. Well, and I have to say, out of all my years of watching, watch World Series every year, probably my whole life, but that was the first year that I went out to be amongst the people to watch them at bars, at somewhere else, to be with groups because it was that much fun uh,
Mhm.
to watch. Let's see, how many Jordan Love prisms you buying, Carlos? Knowing you're setting up, you probably have a stockpile waiting in the wings.
There's a bunch sitting on ComC. I've already marked them up. I actually already sold some profitably. It's been good. I have kept a few for myself, but I mean literally like two or three. Like I don't want to. His question is how many am I buying? Zero. I already bought. The ones that
Right.
I wanted, I already bought. I don't
This
want to buy
isn't the time
anything
to
right now.
buy.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't want to buy anything right now. And I never went like anything high end because I'm like, I don't know what he's going to be. And I'm watching the game. Like, I'm going to probably when I record the podcast with Eric and Bobbles and whatever we're going to do this week.
Mhm.
We'll talk football a little bit.
Right.
I was in the while I was in the show, the game was going on. So, but I was like tracking then, and while we were having a little bit of lunch, I watched a little bit of it on the screen and had it on the TV. Um, Through three quarters, the Packers were shut out. They were
It
literally
looked
accomplishing nothing.
very sloppy game. Yeah.
But they scored 18 points in the fourth quarter unanswered to win that game. And
Right.
I went back and I watched it on replay. I've got here on the streaming thing. I can go watch. So I
Hmm.
fast forwarded all the way through and watched the fourth quarter in its entirety to understand how we arrived at where we ended up. But I'm sitting there like he makes some good throws. I did laugh. One of the post game guys for the Packer guys goes like, he's got a little gunslinger in him. It's like, yeah, there are moments of that. He'll also so he's got like the combination almost personality wise of the two quarterbacks. He'll do
Hmm.
a little gunslinger stuff, but then at the same time, he's got the athleticism to be able to make some runs and do that. But he'll also throw it into like double and triple coverage. So that's very Favre. And I'm like, I'd rather you didn't do that. But in fairness, one interception through three games isn't terrible.
Right. And I mean, an NFL quarterback has to throw to guys that are covered to try to throw them open. Is the words they use. And not every quarterback has got that not that fear to throw it, the non-fear to
No, I
throw
agree,
it.
but I'd like a little bit of fear when it's triple covered. When it's
Yeah.
triple
Yeah.
covered, that might not be that might not a contested catch and
Right.
let the guy go
A
fight for it.
50-50
I'm with
ball.
you. I'm
Right.
with you.
Right.
But the triple covered, that's a little bit of not swell fellas deal. That was his shtick.
Right. 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 How many years did Love sit the bench? I was trying
I
to
think
figure
three. I think three.
3. Yeah.
I think he was a 2020 draft pick.
Right. And that's what I thought because we were having this discussion at work. I work with some sports people, so we have fun discussions at breaks. Because we were talking, it's a little unfair to these young quarterbacks now being drafted in the first round and being thrown out there because the money they make, they have to start. Where like the Jordan Loves I mean, he was lucky to learn behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 years, getting to sit in the quarterback room. I just feel like he's better prepared than some of these other guys that have to fight through their rookie season playing.
He was also lucky that Rodgers, for all his quirks and weirdness, learned something from his initiation under Favre.
Right,
So,
and the Packers have that.
yeah,
I just think a quarterback, especially the way the college game is so different from the NFL game. Where in college they look at half the field, where the NFL almost looks to depths for their check downs, and it's an actual thing they have to learn. It's a little played a little differently, and they're better off learning from the bench.
They are.
It looked like he
My only
did. I
my only
mean,
point though my only point though is that I did chuckle that this time around I literally have a book on the shelf that was Life After Favre that was writing about the early days of Aaron Rodgers. Favre didn't help him at all. So that's where
well, I
that's
can
where I,
believe that.
like he literally like he goes, yeah, I'm not helping you. You're literally trying to take my job. Screw you. It wasn't a very good. It wasn't a very good. Eventually, they mended fences down the road. So I
Yeah,
think Rodgers took that and he goes, I'm not going to do it the same way. I'm actually going to help the guy a little bit. And then when the time comes, the time comes. So now he can kind of hand off the keys and go. So I think Jordan Love's relationship with Aaron Rodgers is way better. He kind of just handed off the keys and go, I'm out of here. It's yours. Do with it as you
right.
will.
But I mean, and also just being in the same room, though, you're going to learn just by just being in the same room. You're going to see how
I
they
think
trick.
I don't know if Rodgers learned enough about Wrangler commercials.
Well, may, Favre is a different character, and the more you
Yeah,
learn
I'm
about
trying. I'm
him,
trying to imagine in my mind what would have happened in that room. Like, what are you learning, Scott? Are you learning about how to get into Wrangler commercial? Are you learning about tractors? Are you learning
right?
about defrauding the Mississippi welfare system?
That
Like,
that's
what are
what
we
I was.
learning in this quarterback room?
Hopefully, you're learning how to because the best thing about the hardest thing the quarterbacks have to me, from what my understanding was, and it looks like Baker Mayfield has even maybe got to figure it out, is learning how to learn. There's going to be a process in there where the game is you have to slow the game down. In order to do that is watching game film and all this other stuff. And a lot of these quarterbacks, even through college, maybe it was just easy to them, but now it's getting tougher, and you got to learn how to learn how to learn. And
Mhm.
being in the same room, you just being around greatness, I think sometimes just helps. And Favre was
Eh,
great. I mean, as
But
much as
now
we
Ed asked about the Jordan Love thing. By contrast, I might have picked up a couple of Bakers just to take a flyer. I'm like, this could either be disastrous and I'll be entertained, but the price was low enough where I'm like, yeah, I'll take a flyer on a couple. I'll grab a couple just to see what
I
happens.
haven't seen a Tampa Bay score today. Did they play today, or they
They're
one
playing
of
on
the two
Monday.
games?
They're playing on Monday.
Yeah, there's the two games on Monday night are really messing with me. I just uh, I'm like, what is going on? Sensory overload. So, but and I have one of my fantasy leagues, and it looks like I'm going to lose the other one unless what's this wide receiver for the Raiders goes completely off tonight. But uh, the thing that I wanted to get into, and I don't know how long this could go in depth, because there is a couple of things about wrestling. I know this me and you can go on forever, but I don't know how much our chat will go on with us. But what I want to talk about was this whole thing with Panini. Me and you have talked about it before.
Mm-hmm.
To not think what if people don't know, the WWE has fired Panini by I don't know how else to put it for making their cards. Had they said is it immediately or at a certain
They're trying
date?
to make it immediate. Yeah, yeah. They're trying to make it
Um,
immediate. That their goal because Topps already had the next license.
right,
The if you go back in time, Panini got the WB license, and then literally on the eve of releasing the first product under their new license that they had just acquired, it was announced, of course, via the Fanatics overlords. They announced that, oh, by the way, as soon as this contract is over, it's going back to Tops. So they were a lame duck already right out of the start. But it's
right,
supposed to go to 2026. That was the
right.
original end date.
So, and me and you've talked about this before. Panini has a lawsuit with Fanatics,
They got a couple now, but yeah.
right? And I mean, if this shows at all that Fanatics is interfering in these, I mean, how easy or how bad are these contracts if everybody can just walk away from them? Because I mean, it looks like NFL can write some airclad contracts with their players. WWE does it with their wrestlers, but for them, just I know cards are not the same thing, but it's just like these companies just walk away. I mean, is the breach of not making the money something they held back? Does anybody know what the breach of contract that they're trying to
Well, the from so what I
loophole?
recall, so the current one, the WBE one, is supposed to be that they didn't meet one of their obligations as far as I think digital and card games and something like that. It becomes a little bit of semantics. The
Right.
idea is supposed to be the way I phrased it, because Paul Lesko is the guy. He's the actual lawyer, so
Hmm.
I leave it to him to interpret. But
Right.
just taking it at a high level, my answer to it, the way I phrase it, is the contract sets out what the expectations are supposed to be, whatever they're supposed to be. You're supposed to do this, we're going to do this. You pay us this, we get this, whatever. The question is, breach of contract means somebody
Good
didn't do
point, Mark.
something they were supposed to do. That's all it means. It means
Right.
somebody didn't do something, because that's what you're arguing. Now
Right.
it becomes an argument because now you go into the legal arena and you're gonna have one lawyer said, "Yeah, we did do what you were supposed to do, like this, 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 this," and then the other guy's like, "No, you didn't. You were supposed to do this." So now it's interpretation. They say, you know, somebody goes and contracts you, Scott, and they say you're going to do a live stream on Sunday. Cool. If you flip on the live stream, say, "Hey guys," and then click off, technically you did a live stream, but it wasn't good faith. That wasn't what they were actually asking you to do. So now you guys get into a bit of an argument. But you were like, "Well, you didn't specify how long the live stream needed to be. You didn't specify whatever." "Oh, but what if you do another live stream later on in the night for somebody else?" It's like, "No, you're supposed to do one for us." "Well, I did." And that's the kind of argument you get into. I'm using a silly example here to try to make a point.
Yeah, but
Where you can do something that technically meets the letter of the law, what's the spirit of the law? And
right.
that's where, when they run into the courtroom, that's what the two sides are arguing against each other. So now they're like, "Here you go, we're going to do this and we're going to do this." And that's what you're doing. And you're going back and forth. But since I'm not in the courtroom, I don't know what the contract says. I have no idea what they were supposed to do.
No, Luther, I didn't post a link tonight. Let's see. Yeah. Omari makes a great point. Panini probably should start pushing up the basketball release because it is next.
The
I
UFC
don't
is
know
the
what.
other. The UFC is the other one I threw out there because they're under
Right.
Endeavor with the WWE, and they're also under Panini. I don't know what the terms are for their agreement either, but they're under the same parent company now. So couldn't they do the same thing too?
I would think so, or do we not know that it is the parent company and they both are saying they're walking away, or is there two different contracts?
Well,
Who knows?
the WWE contract predates the Endeavor merger. So
Right.
whatever the deal
That's
originally was with WWE, but now WWE is under Endeavor. So this is, again, going back to what I said earlier about what are the expectations in the contract. The company that you were doing business with previously has now changed. They're still WWE, but now they're WWE under this bigger umbrella. They were operating separate of each other. The UFC and WWE were two different things, and now they're in the same house, so they can talk to each other a little bit. Does that guarantee that UFC is going to do something? No, they might be perfectly fine with it, or they might just let it run its course or whatever. It could be in the same house and they could disagree on how to approach it. WWE is really good though about their contracts. WWE knows what its contracts say. They're very sneaky about the way they've done business over a lot of years, and they've been in their share of lawsuits. The
right.
lawyers that WWE hires are pretty good. So it's one of
Right.
those things where, like, if they think they can get away with it, that doesn't mean they're going to. But if they think they can get away with it, they have to feel like they've got a case.
Yeah, and also to me, it's big money bullying. I used to play my share of Texas Hold'em. If you're a strong hand, if you got the most money at the table, you can bully some hands. Uh, it's like the same type of concept. You put WWE money up against Panini money. Panini doesn't hold a candle, especially now the WWE is owned by who they're owned by. Uh, they can handle any type of lawsuit that Panini or any fight that comes their way. Uh, and I just don't know. Is it, Carl? Is it that much of a business? The card business, is it that big of a deal to these sports businesses for them to make these moves like this? Not to just go, "Oh, we just don't want to worry about it," and they let the contract run out. For them to break contracts to go to Fanatics early, is the business that strong, or bring that much money to them where WWE needs to worry about this, or NFL?
Well,
It's a
if you take the WWE example based on Panini's lawsuit, we got some information that we usually don't have. They said that as part of the deal, WWE wanted the guaranteed money that was included, which was 5.6 million. 5.6 million is the number they said they wanted to. They wanted to end it, but they said they also wanted the guaranteed money that we were promised in the contract, 5.6 million. Well, if Fanatics is offering more than 5.6 million, WWE would immediately make more money. The other piece of the puzzle, and I don't know the answer to this one. What if Fanatics offered them an equity deal in the business similar to what they offered the Players Association? It's not just money, because a lot of times folks in my live stream will talk about like, oh, Fanatics overspent for this. It's like, you don't know how much cash was involved. What if the majority of it is an equity deal? You guys are going to be part of this company we're making, and you're getting a revenue share of proceeds. So we make the pie bigger. You're getting a bigger piece as the pie gets bigger. So instead of us paying you out this X amount over every year over the course of the contract, now if this company gets bigger and it makes more money doing left, right, and center, you get a piece of that, and it can be worth multiples to you.
Yeah, because it almost sounds like whatever little bit slipped out of the Players Association agreement with Fanatics does sound like that they're getting a bigger piece of the pie, the overall pie of sales.
Yeah, well, Fanatics literally created a company that the Players Association and leagues are going to get a stake in. For the football and the basketball, they flat out said that they've got this company, basically a holding company, if you will, that is going to control these licenses and do all this, and the Players Association and the leagues are going to get a piece. They get a piece of it. So now you go, Scott, from being salary to being a part owner.
Right, but it's just hard. I guess I'm trying to put it to make it where they're putting this much effort into it, to make this much of a big deal, I guess, where to me the card business would be such a small little endeavor for the NFL, where it's almost like a headache. We only sign one agreement, we'll get it over with, and we're done with for 10 years. But to go through all of this stuff is kind of I don't know, if it just feels like if it was me in the NFL, I'd be like, man, just let it play its out. Who cares? It's just cards at the end of the day. For us, it's not just cards.
It's not about cards, Scott. It's the opposite. It's not about cards. So using the WWE example, if I don't know what WWE's agreement is with Topps, what that version is going to look like, but if Panini is only technically on the hook for 5.6 million, and Fanatics says we'll give you 20, that's 15 more million, 14 and change. Right. Yes, thank you. I'll take it. And by the way, WWE doesn't need the money either. They get 15 million every time they go to Saudi Arabia. But it doesn't matter. They want it. The point isn't that they need it. The point is they want it. If I can get 20 instead of 5, I'm taking 20. Give me 20.
Yeah, and it's just for those guys, I mean, like you said, they fall into 15 million every time they go over somewhere like that.
But when you're in that spot, Scott, the one thing I know about folks in that kind of business, at that point it's just a game to them. It's keeping score. I want it's 5 now. I want 20 now. It's 20. I want 100. It's 100. I want 500. It's like we don't need it. It's not about what I need. Look, I don't care about Panini. I don't care about Topps. I don't give a crap about either one of them. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. Which one of you is going to give me the deal or the money that I want? Right. Well, Fanatics is offering me X, Y, Z, and whatever, and Panini is like, well, we've got a contract. Good. You want to quadruple the amount? I'll think about staying with you. Otherwise, shut up.
Yeah, and I mean, that's all great points. And to me, I was just wondering. I was like, I wanted to get your perspective on that one, because it was like you keep hearing about it, and with WWE. You know, they haven't been with Panini very long, have they? I mean, Prism, they've only had
2022. Scott, that's why I said in 2022, it was with Topps. Panini got the license, and as they were about to release the first Prism product, Fanatics swooped in and said, after this contract is over, we're taking it back. So they made him lame. So they didn't even get months of exclusive before Fanatics. By the way, we're next in line.
Right, and I mean. And I know a lot of people are excited about that. I've already started seeing, can't wait for this, and this. And I'm like, wrestling cards, we both know are not the big, they've gotten better, but they're not the huge sellers out there. So, and it's been,
I think the wrestling guys like what Panini's done in their brief run, better than what Topps did at the end of their run.
Right.
Topps Chrome and Topps Finest did okay. It wasn't really anything crazy. They got some nice cards, but it wasn't like the lineup that Panini's put together in that short run. Whoever's in charge of the wrestling side in Panini is either a fan or knows how to do research, because
Right.
they look. We got Shockmaster. Somebody went into the archive and said, "Hey, we'll make a Shockmaster card."
I
That
want
made me
that
laugh.
card. I have
That
not
made me
got it yet.
laugh. I
Yeah.
legit laughed. But here's the thing: if you don't know the product or haven't done your research, would you have ever thought of that? No.
No. No.
So that means whoever is in charge of that division right now with Panini is either a fan or somebody who's done good research. Either way, this is really
Right.
good. Topps did not have that. Topps is like, yeah, it'll be like Topps Chrome, not dissimilar to what we've done with the other base design. Here it is, Topps Chrome, whatever. It's an
Right.
afterthought. They just put together some sets. Here you go. Take your sets. Get out of here.
Yeah, because I mean, speaking of that, I did pick up my first blaster of metal today. I found a blaster of that, so I haven't opened it, of course, because it's in my pile of wax that I have. Excited to open that up with AEW, because poor Upper Deck just gets kind of lost in the shuffle, it seems like, with their product. But sticking with WWE and the last bit of wrestling news, they did quite a bit of releases this week. They actually, some people are getting confused though with releases and contracts running out. I noticed that too, because like Edge's contract ran out. That's a mutual agreement that they just said we're separating ways. Same thing with Ziggler, Ziggler's brothers in AEW.
No,
Edge,
Ziggler was released.
was he? Well,
He was still under contract.
Oh, was he? Okay, because I read his contract ran out. But okay,
Ziggler was one of the guys who was released. All release means is that the company says we want to terminate your contract early.
right.
That's it.
And I mean Christian, and I think he wants one last run with Edge, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that. So, but with that being said, with some of the talent they did release, like Elias, a lot of people are confused about that. This company, Vince McMahon was so much into destroying the competition and then purchasing it and just smashing it into oblivion. But this new company that bought them is about making money. So is that what we're seeing now, is starting to see cuts for bottom line, or are we going to start seeing, you think, changes in shows? Are we going to see a show go away? What do you think this new company and what we're seeing, what does it translate to? Because I know you have, some wrestling connections in there and some people you talk to. So
Sure.
what do you think?
Well, part of it they've already given us the blueprint. They've already said effectively what they're doing for part of it. The cuts are budget cuts, yes, but they were doing budget cuts before Endeavor was involved. They did like annual or multi-time a year budget. Like Cody Rhodes was part of releases going back years. This is before AEW existed. They were doing every year they would do a series of releases.
One in summer, one at Christmas. They call it the Christmas cut or whatever.
Yeah, they would do a couple, yeah. So they would basically run through the roster and cull the herd and just grab a bunch of folks out of it. With the merger, it makes sense to grab. Basically, they went and looked and said, who's getting like a Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler was making over $1 million a year.
Yeah,
and they barely.
He's been there for 20 years.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, he's making over $1 million a year. He did whatever they asked him to do, but at the same time, he could come and go. He could do movies or TV shows or stand-up comedy or whatever he wants to do in his own time. So his contract was excellent for him, because he could be like, all right, so yeah, if you need me, just give me a call. I'll come in and do a thing, and otherwise I'm off doing my stand-up comedy or whatever. And yeah, cool. Give me a call if you need me. He was a utility player for them, but he was $1 million utility player. So it's ponying up quite a bit of money. Vince, though, to be honest, the competition thing you're talking about, Vince kind of gave that up after WCW. It isn't that he did no longer care; it's that nobody was really competition to him.
Well, that's the same way. After WCW. Yeah.
And even AEW. So I'll give it to you this way: Tony Khan feels that he's competition for WWE. He's not.
Right.
He's not, and it's not because it's not for lack of desire. The problem is that, long story short, until you can have a good baseline of ratings and drawing shows and doing everything that's equivalent, if you can consistently draw you go to the same arena and draw an equivalent attendance. You're getting your television shows are getting equivalent because they've had over 1 million viewers. But the thing is, Raw, as bad as it was doing, it got to a point where there were weeks where they were like 1.3 ratings. That's still higher than all but the first episode of Dynamite ever.
Right.
So Raw at its worst is almost the high watermark of Dynamite. So you're not comparing. It's not apples to apples. Now, in fairness, this is where the other side of the coin goes. TBS and TNT and Turner is paying way less for it. And what's happening now with Endeavor and that company is that, hey Mike, what's happening with Endeavor now is that they've already renegotiated one of the deals. SmackDown is going to go over off of Fox when that
Right.
deal is done, and it's going back to USA. But here's the thing: does that mean they're going to keep Raw? Now you got to remember dollar amounts. You talk about dollar amounts and everything. WWE is making more than $500 million a year on television. $500 million a year, plus $100 million in Saudi blood money. That's $600 million, Scott.
Right.
Just falling out of bed. They basically
Right.
automatically make $600 million without doing anything. That's
Right.
without selling a single ticket. The arenas could be empty, Scott. They don't have to sell a shirt, and they make $600 million.
Right.
So that company's already very profitable. So to your point, it's like Vince cares about profit a lot. He's
Oh,
built
yeah.
a money making
Oh, yeah.
machine. It's a machine. Plus, the Peacock deal with NBC, they made $1 billion on the Peacock deal. They get $200 million a year for Peacock. So I just gave you
Right.
600 million. How about 800 million, Scott? How about 800 million for falling out of bed in the morning?
Well, I was really shocked at the beginning when they had one show on the Universal channel and one show on the Fox channel, how that was working. Because before, when they've done that, it didn't work. It's almost like the jealous, X. You're doing more for this group than you are for this group. And I know at one point I think Fox wasn't happy on their return or whatever. But I did see a thing last week where AEW said they're on Saturday night, they're the number one TV show on cable network TV on Saturday nights.
The thing is,
Yeah.
if you splice something correctly, you can make that claim, and it's 100% correct.
That-
Right
that's-
now, we're on the highest rated Sunday night hobby show hosted by a guy named Scott.
That's right.
That's a fact. That's
That's
100%. It's true. It's very niche, but Scott, you can promote that. I'll give you that. You can
Thank
promote
you.
that. This is the
Thank
number
you.
one Sunday night show hosted by a guy named Scott.
with a Virginia hat on.
That's
Amazing.
right.
You got
So-
it. It's all you, buddy. You're number one.
So we're going to translate this over to cards now.
Yeah.
I think, with Topps getting it, I think a lot of people get automatically a little bit more excited, nostalgic about it.
Not the wrestling guys. Like I said, that product was pretty lame. At the tail end, it
Yeah.
was pretty bad.
But I think the everyday collector, like
Sure.
the casual, that wants to see the Topps box on the shelf.
It's got the brand name. It's got the brand
Yeah,
name.
they see Select and they're like, "What is this?" I think that's was going to get excited, but it's so wait to see. But get back to the thing. Does this help Panini with their lawsuit against Fanatics at all? Like, if they found out there's collusion with Fanatics and WWE, like I brought up with them in the NFL, I mean, that's part of what the lawsuit is about. I mean,
Yeah, but how are they going to find out?
I don't know.
The
Wiretap.
thing is, all
Watergate.
Fanatics had to do was make a suggestion in passing, not in writing, and it's like, yeah, you never prove it.
Right. They could just put out a thing. We got you next, whenever that day is.
Yeah, Michael Rubin could literally go to a lunch with a guy and go, one of the WWE guys. I think it's Nick Khan, who is one of the big wigs at WWE. He could literally have lunch with Nick Khan and go, "Hey Nick, we're thinking like we got some great plans for 2026. That'd be awesome. It's a shame that we can't get started on it. We got so many amazing ideas. It'd be kind of great." And then Nick Khan is like, "So do you have any ideas that you could come up with in 2024?" It's like, we could probably swing something if it came to pass, But we're ready. We'll be ready in 2026. All right, good talk.
So back to AEW real quick. While I got this in my brain, did I see a checklist for their next stuff coming out? What is their next on the list for AEW cards?
Well, the next one on the list is Allure. Metal's already
Right.
out. The next one would be Allure.
So Allure What's already out? It's Metal, right? It's out right
Metal's
now.
out right now. Yeah.
So Allure, is that? Have they put out a checklist for that?
Not that I've seen. I can check. I
Okay,
don't think so.
I thought I might have saw something, and it might have been because this is the first year of Allure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll check card
I was just
recommended.
wondering because
No checklist yet.
no checklist yet. Okay, like I said, I was probably blind, but uh, I just with the wrestling, I just was wanted your take a little bit more in depth. Again, if anybody out there is more intrigued, Carlos had a very good reaction video to that on his channel last week. Uh, was it one of your podcasts as well, Carlos, when you
No,
did that
right now
one?
it was just the standalone video. I just
Say,
talked about it. I think it's about. I think it was under 10 minutes because
right,
high level, it's pretty straightforward right now. Like a lot of the stuff that we just talked about covers the real basics. Uh, it's about interpretation of the contract. WB is
okay,
making the argument they haven't met the requirement. Panini's saying they did. That's really what it comes
right,
down to. That's the entire
and
argument in a nutshell.
right, and it's hard to. It's just that's weird to me, but you know, I just want the cards and done well, and I think Panini has done a very good. I think they've done a lot better with their wrestling stuff than they have with some of their other product. I'll just
That
leave
is
it at
true,
that.
and I think that the fans for the cards are legitimately. They actually have enjoyed what Panini's done. I think they've
Right.
done really a good job with it. Now, I'd like to agree with you, Scott, because I do like the cards, but I also like them to fight. Fight for
Yeah.
my amusement.
Well, this has been a little bit more intriguing than some of the dumb stuff we have within our hobby between.
Mike, I like to
Uh,
pretend I'm about the cards and the collectors. I'm not. I'm about the entertainment value and content that I get to make. Fight for my
we
amusement, all of you.
we know Carlos, the content gods. Now that Mike has come on, thank you, Mike, for coming on. I have a quick question, and I know you dropped the thing about CGC this week in our group chat. Uh, they are supposed when they came together as one group. They failed to tell us it wasn't one group yet on their interwebs.
Yeah, they started advertising before they were ready to go.
Right, and kind of falsely. Uh, have you had any headway with them on this? And with, we don't want to poo poo on CGC. What Mike did was a base or a sports non sports thing. There's no way to make it all one like you can with SGC.
Well, evidently now there is, but
Right.
well,
But when you did
supposedly.
it wasn't. Uh, so now they're having is your non-sport, and I'm kind of interested in this because I think I got 14 cards in that order.
You do, or
Don't
something
be
like
too
that.
mad at them and don't cuss them too hard because I got 14.
Yeah, well, when you get a bunch of 2.5s on modern cards, you'll know why. My apologies in advance.
Could you make like a really angry emo Scott video about it, and then I can make a reaction to it and just cap you
Well,
for like
yeah,
5 straight
no.
minutes?
Well, Carlos, I was going to jump on you because Comcast said they're supposed to be mailing me out. I have like 110 cards with them coming, and that was supposed to be sent out on the 18th, and they still got it in picking.
And this is
So,
with sorry, this is for which company?
not what did I say, with
You said
ComC.
Comcast. I'm like, I can't help you. I don't know. I don't know what to say for you.
ComC. So I'm like, did
Okay.
Carlos make a call on anti-Scott?
Scott, basically every horrible thing that happens to you in the hobby, I'm probably the secret hand in the background involved.
Yeah. I mean,
I just send them your picture. I'm like, screw with this guy. It'll be hilarious.
yeah, I still have a PSA order, several. We're a week away from October from that being a year.
Well,
So
unfortunately, Scott, that order is
Listen.
contingent on the end of the lawsuits. The lawsuits got to end first, and then we can talk about your grading submission.
The thing is, you might as well just keep waiting for it because that way you'll continue to have something to look forward to. You know, you got to look for the
Well,
positive in
and guess
everything.
what? I have one in November. I got one in February. I got a lot. I got a few more to look forward to.
Well, I'm
By the way,
happy
Paul-
that
by the
I
way, Paul's
that
got
I
a good
currently have
question.
nothing out.
Paul's got a good question. I think one of the old Topps Heritage, I want to say in the mid 2000s, I think they had an 87 throwback.
they did.
as part of one of the subsets or insert sets or something. They actually had one back in, I
Yeah.
want to say 05. Whatever Heritage 3 was, I got a box of it somewhere. I think they did 87 throwback with the wood grain borders.
Yeah, because I know at one point they did a repack with wrestling, and I would pick it up, and they would always have 2 or 3 packs of that year's Heritage in there, and it have like the All Star card, but instead of All Star, it was like a Legends. That used the same font and everything as the '87 All Star, but it said Legends on it. He said, "Of course they did." Paul is just loves the '87 tops.
But it was perfect that he asked, because it's like, no, I actually have an answer for that. I have an answer for that one. As long as you bring the appropriate enthusiasm, Mike. As long as you bring the enthusiasm, I've pumped dumber things.
Poor Wesker Griff didn't make it to the Philly show. Poor decision, because I found an awesome Ricky Otero in a value box. So,
but that's what. How was that show? So Carlos told us to show us pictures of that the Toronto.
Plus, I don't know if you
show.
saw this, Mike. 1992 O-Pee-Chee baseball. Let's go.
And the guy almost gave him money to take it.
It was ridiculous.
That's a good way to make money. Just go around collecting
the negotiation
stuff.
skills of the current generation leave something to be desired. I just looked at afterwards. I went and had the conversation with Bobby. I was like, I think if I had just stared at him, he would have talked himself down. I just didn't say anything. I just kind of looked at him, and then the price went down. I'm like,
I mean,
okay.
I have seen that. People are desperate where they're like, I cannot afford this guy to walk away. If it's something they really want to get rid of, if you even hesitate a moment, they're like, well, I mean, I can knock another $5 off. I can knock it. It's like, I'll just stand here till you give me that $20 bill.
Yeah. Did the Phillies hit their magic number today, Mike?
The Phillies completed their sweep of the Mets today. So this is finally a good weekend. The Patriots get their first win today. They survived against Zach Wilson-led Jets. Not so sure how long Zach Wilson will be making starts for that team. Phillies won. They dropped their magic number to 1. If the Marlins or Cubs would have lost today, they would have clinched a playoff spot. But those two teams were victorious, so they got it down to 1. It was they got the game in. They got both games in this weekend, which is shocking because it was a miserable weekend in this area.
Did you have to go where you were rained out at yesterday?
Oh, I went. There was no game, but I went. Cool story in the Phillies game today, actually. They had a guy made his Major League debut today, Orion Kirkering. He was drafted last year, started this year in low A, moved to high A, moved to double A, moved to triple A, made his MLB debut. It's not often you have a guy who plays at 5 levels in one season. It was outside for your perspective, Scott, outside of the fact that he was dominating the Mets. Pretty cool video. His dad's in the crowd, tears in his eyes and stuff.
Oh, I love it. I don't.
But that was a cool moment as well in the 8th inning.
Right. The Mets are done. I mean, they've been done since
they were playing pretty well though before they came in here. At least offensively, some of the young guys.
Well,
so I'm sure that's nice to see.
They played them tough.
Well,
it's not
no,
like
they were in the games. They just.
Right.
I don't think they had the same power that they had before. But to answer your previous questions, Philly show was pretty good. It was in there. So at the new place they have it in Oaks, it's a much bigger. It's a convention center as opposed to the basement of a casino. Even though I didn't mind the old setup, it was just getting way too packed. It was just. The show had overgrown, that location. But there's a few different halls at this convention center. So they used one of the bigger rooms. So that was good. So it never, based on previous Philly shows, it felt like it was slower, but I don't think it actually was. From what I heard, outside of a few guys in the corners or back edges, dealers seemed pretty pleased, like they did really well. And it was spacious and you could move around. There were a few times, of course, you want to look in some display cases and guys are just taking forever and you kind of can't get around and then you move on. But generally speaking, at least you could move freely. You could have some conversations. So it was a
Now,
good
did they
show. I
have
know SG.
autograph guys?
They had a ton of autograph signers. A lot of Eagles guys, a lot of Phillies guys, and then a lot of legends. A lot of retired players. Scott
Good.
Rowland was there. Cal
Oh,
Ripken Jr. A whole bunch of athletes from out of town. Guys like Pedro Martinez were there. Jim Tomei.
Oh, so
So
it wasn't just for Philly guys. It was general retired ball players in general.
yeah, they had.
Mike Trout. Come
Well,
on.
I mean, he probably could have come since he sure as
Yeah,
heck ain't playing.
he was
but
officially shut down today. I went on MLB.com and he was
yeah,
officially shut down. I'm like,
60-day
he
DL.
was shut down in 2013. He's never been good. You know, he could have retired years ago and I wouldn't have noticed.
Well, certainly if you watch second half baseball, he's played like one game in the second half in 3 years.
Literally played one game in the second half. Scott, we're in a golden era. We're in a golden era.
yeah. Well, I brought it up last week and with my dad on our show. Released on Mondays, Pop and Scott Talk Baseball.
Shameless plug.
Yeah,
The number one rated
my
baseball
dad's been
talk
looking at the
with
numbers.
father son.
He keeps talking about numbers. I'm like, Dad, don't worry about the numbers. Just have fun.
You can be the number one father son baseball Monday episodic, whatever that is. Like, it's worked for me on this Friday Live. It's the longest running episodic, whatever that is. Go with it, Scott. Go with it.
He'll be at the Eagles Bucks game tomorrow. But if the Angels were actually good and playing for something, would him and Ohtani would still be in the lineup right now? I feel like they would be. It's just Ohtani cleared his locker out. The Angels have some issues, and
Yeah,
Scott,
I mean, I think
the issue is that anchor, that $350 million anchor, dragging that franchise down. As soon as they get rid of that guy and run him out of town, next year World Series championship. Finally got rid of this loser, and we're ready to go. Dynasty.
I don't feel the same way about him as you do, but I feel the same way about the Angels need to go in a different direction and pick up some talent.
Look, all I'm going to say is the Angels won the World Series in 2002, and you know who wasn't on the team? I'm just saying they just need to get rid of the anchor,
but they had the rally monkey,
and happy times are here again.
They rally monkey. If that comes back, I quit baseball. But anyway, I just
clip that.
I
said, got to clip that statement.
I was going to say, promise. It's like, Mike, I am fully in the backing of getting rid of Fish Boy and bringing back the rally monkey. And when the Angels win the World Series, they're like, finally, we fixed it. It's the anti-Ruth curse. Get rid of the guy you win.
On that team. I mean, luckily I don't have it on video somewhere. Me telling my dad if Duke beat Clemson, I would be a Duke fan forever. Luckily, I don't have that recorded anywhere because I told my dad that. And luckily, Paul C. knows about the rally monkey. I was living in California, Huntington Beach, which is Orange County, right outside of working in Costa Mesa, right beside Anaheim. Man, I hate it. That's why I hate the rally monkey so much.
You seem particularly angry about the rally monkey in Huntington Beach. You seem particularly angry about the rally monkey in what is it? Tito Ortiz.
I like
the Huntington Beach bad boy.
Yeah, I never saw Tito Ortiz, but Tank Abbott bounced at a bar. We would see him every weekend.
I thought for a second you said bounced off a bar, and I would have believed both.
Well, it looked like his teeth were half gone, but you didn't laugh at him. He used to, I seen him pound people. So,
Philly show was good though.
Is it still 1,000? Like, are you talking like 1,000 yen? Like what are we talking about here? Like, are we talking like 1,000 Doge? I can get Ed on this. If it's 1,000 Doge, I know a guy.
I'm so happy that I sold my nines when I did. Let's just put it that way. I had 2 nines. I came out really ahead on that deal. Looking back at it, I still got my 10. Keep my 10 forever, so it doesn't matter. So Philly show was good. Great pickups. I know we'll have a pickup.
Hopefully I'll get a recap up tomorrow. Picked up some stuff. I didn't go crazy. I missed out on something fairly big, but I wasn't really going there looking to spend a ton anyway. I spent enough in the last few months.
Right.
But, I mean, the Philly show is just, it's big enough and there's such a variety of dealers. Like I can just go there and I know enough of the dealers and I know enough people who attend. Like you can literally go there, walk the show floor, look around at stuff, stop by, have some conversations and have a great time. You know, look at some cards. And the first day I really didn't pick anything up. I went Friday and then I went for part of yesterday. And Friday I picked up like a couple dollar cards. And then yesterday I ended up finding a few things that fit the collection that I needed. Nothing crazy, but fun stuff.
Some of our friends like Reese and Ray and some of them make it there? Or?
I hung out with Reese quite a bit. He picked up some fun stuff. He claims, and you know, we'll put some pressure on him, that he's going to make a recap video. It'll be his first video since his previous Philly show. So hopefully we'll get another video. Ray did not make it.
Okay.
But ran into some others. So it was a good time.
How about Andy? Carlos introduced me to Andy during the National.
Yep.
He usually shows up to these Philly shows.
Yeah, I did not run into him.
Okay.
I did see from I exchanged some text messages with him. He did make it out, and I think he'll make a video on it. So obviously, with the size of the show and everything, it doesn't surprise me that the guys didn't see each other, but they were both at the show, maybe at different times or whatever.
Now, Andy, I know a lot of my viewers don't know who Andy. Andy is the card investigator.
Sports card investigator.
Yeah, sports card investigator. Who was made infamous a few nationals ago.
Yeah, somebody
really nice guy.
I think somebody made a reaction video. Someone, esteemed in the community, the pillar of pillars, decided to make a reaction. I couldn't believe it. Can you believe, Mike? Can you believe someone would make a reaction video?
It is
and cause
it is
controversial
stunning.
things. I couldn't believe it. Look, as a man of peace, I would never even dream of doing such a thing. Ignore my channel with the multiple reaction videos. But the point is, I would never even dream of such a thing. It's terrible. It's bad form. Bad form to do such things.
As of yesterday, I only had seen one video posted about the show, but obviously it was still early. I mean, you had all today as well. So
Ed wants to know if CGC was there.
They were not. The two grading companies that were there, I mean, JSA is always there authenticating autographs for the signing. Beckett was there. At some point Friday, I walked by. There was literally 0 people in line. Like the guy was sitting there bored to death. They were set up all the way on the side, and then SGC was in the middle of the show. They had pretty decent traffic.
That's the way they're going. Yeah,
they had like the computer set up sort of like the National. Obviously not as big of a setup, but where people are sitting there entering some stuff. I dropped off a submission with them, talked to them for a little bit. So,
but Beckett, they're still doing clipboard and paper. So that's what they were doing at the National.
They're probably the most baffling. They are the most baffling for where they were and what they've done through the boom and the post boom. Like, the age of grading, what they've done or the lack of what they've done is just stunning. CSG was not there. I probably would have told them that they're just buffoons, that they do some stuff good, but they are.
They do good, but man, with you, it just seems like.
I mean, they're just
issues, but I don't do what you do with them. So,
but they've also just since the beginning, like they could have capitalized so much because their slabs themselves are amazing. Their slabs are great. The current labels are fine. I like them, but they started off. Their first mistake was going with the ancient Beckett scale. I know they had some Beckett disciples go there. That's probably why they did it. But I mean, that was a straight up mistake. That set them back just as much as the silly green label, which, I didn't hate, but I didn't love either. I like the current label more, but clearly the general audience hated that label. And then they kept making progressions, changing stuff, but it's like every time they do something, it's like, why are you separate from just regular trading cards? For a while, they wouldn't do stuff like Star Wars cards and such, the non-sports stuff that weren't just silly. And then they advertised. They made a big push at the national. Oh, submit all your stuff at once. And then when you do that, when you go to do that, you still have to do separate forms because they said, "Oh, it wasn't actually ready yet." I was like, "Why are you advertising it?"
And you
And then
can't.
I sent an order in, and the sports order is back. I have it. I haven't done a reveal video yet, but I will. Reholder order is also back. Why they can't just ship this stuff together is another baffling thing, but it is what it is. The other one, the non-sports, is not done yet. Hopefully that'll be resolved this week. But literally, they told me because of some changes we made, we need you to create a new order number for this order. I was on the phone with them. I'm like, you're telling me someone there can't just create a new order number? Like, I don't. So I had to go re-enter all that bullshit, and I was just like, it's not stuff I'm familiar with. I don't even have I had a printout of stuff, but I'm like going through. I'm like, you guys are freaking killing me. So I just sent some snippy emails back. I was like, oh, after 45 minutes, I've redone all this work again. So hopefully you're ready to go. Here's your new order number. Why you couldn't generate it at $1 million company, I don't know.
So this was CGC. Did you tell them Bobbles? I told you.
I did not, but maybe I should have.
That would have fixed, because he gets emails straight from him. That would have fixed it all.
I don't know what that's going to look for because now Bobbles is back. He's back with big SGC. So he's back in the pocket. He's back in the pocket of SGC Pete.
That's right.
So it's like, so I don't know.
He was a free agent for a day, and CGC was sending him emails. So, I
was gonna say, he was a hot free agent there for half a second. It was crazy times. It was crazy times.
Yeah, and it's good to see Bobbles back in where he belongs.
Wearing the tux.
Wearing the tux. Anything to add before we take off today? I'm glad Mike jumped on. I would have liked to dig in a little further with some of the other news we have in the grading
Scott, it's your goddamn channel. There is literally nothing preventing you from asking the follow-up question.
Okay, let's see. So with SGC, which you're still doing with right now, are you tired of them having like 3 and 4 different pricings? Just give me one price for everything, or they extend.
I mean, I like them having the specials. I mean, I did.
That's
so
fine.
I was talking
to special is 4 months long. When is it a special? When is it the price?
Well, it's the Topps Chrome price.
Right.
Scott, you've never been one of those neighborhoods that has a store that does a going out of business sale that lasts a decade. You've never had one of those. It's like that.
Mattresses forever going on sale.
Yeah, it's going out of business, but they get new inventory every week, and then there's more stuff. And it's like there's more stuff than when you started going out of business. How is there more inventory today?
And it almost worked on me where I'm like, well, man, now I need to look. I have some Topps Chrome that I was like, maybe I'll send this in.
I mean, it might help me because I've been too busy to shop for stuff, and I'm like, maybe I will look for a few, Phillies parallels that would look cool in it.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, they got the TCG price, which they had to drop that because they struggle mightily in getting the TCG market at all.
But okay, and I kind of touched with this with Carlos. Knowing where your lane is doesn't matter. Like, do you think SGC looks at Gem Mint every week and go, we got to get these numbers up, or is that just a portion they think if they get it up and keep it?
I think they're protecting themselves. I mean, in a way, that's where a lot of the youth is going. The people are into that stuff. Yeah, so, I could care less about it.
That's
you have enough young people that you could create a new marketplace and things could shift in the future. It's not easy, but
this is what
10 years ago, people didn't use SGC for modern sports cards, and now it's used quite a bit. So they've made headway.
But when you go to a show for non-sports Pokemon TCG, those people, and when you go to comic book stores, which I know Carlos talked about on this podcast, you see a lot more CSG and PSA. You don't see SGC, and these people they stick with what they know, and I just don't know if they're going to switch over to SG. They could give it to them for free, and I don't know if they'll switch over.
I mean, I think I don't think they're trying to, push to be the number one TCG place. They have people who know that stuff there, so they want to, get some stuff in for that. I mean, they've done a good job
because
bringing the sports crowd into the modern stuff, and I do think there's a lot of collectors. A lot of people are like, listen, if you like the tux, you like it, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. Right. But if you like it, and you're going to get better service, and you're going to get your stuff back in a week or two or whatever, like, there's a real value to that. I know there's a lot of people with, their nose up high that, they got to have every dollar, so they want to use PSA. But
right,
if you,
my
use
main
the companies,
my main issue is that SGC Pete has gone out there and promised a lot of things. I was promised flying cars, and frankly, he's failed. I want one.
You need that flying car.
I need a flying car. He's promised me flying cars. I want 1 hour grading.
I thought that was
teleported. I want it teleported to my house. I want it in a velvet bag. Short of that, I don't care.
Eventually, maybe the teleportation will happen.
And they understand.
Until then we'll reevaluate this discussion. Until then, they have nothing.
Their main for SGC, and they understand this because they highlighted it in their last time Peter had this little discussion, was they understand their turnaround times. That is what makes them different. That's what their separation is from everybody else.
Well, the turnaround time is actually tweaked a little bit. It's actually it has slowed down a little bit, which is it's still very good. Like jokes aside, it's still very good turnaround time. The problem was there was a little while, and I've had this discussion with Bobbles directly. There was a little while where they obsessed about the turnaround time so much that it became their only discernible feature. And I was like, well, guys, there's a certain point where more turnaround time, it actually doesn't impress us that much. If it's 5 days and you say we can now do it in 4, well, cool, but okay. So what difference does that make? It's like if a certain amount of people are going to submit to you, it's not that going from 5 days to 4 is suddenly going to double your submissions. That's not going to be the differentiator. The only thing then you can do is lower the price. That becomes the only lever you can pull, and you only want to lower the price to a certain point. You still want to be profitable. You don't want to just lower the price. You can make it $1 a card, and more people would submit. Mike, how many cards are you going to submit if it's $1 a card?
Probably a lot.
Yeah,
they're going to lose a bunch of money.
How many cards would you have to submit to make up the difference in terms of the current submission rate and at $1 a card? It doesn't make sense. The diagram no longer works at that point. It's like, no, you got to find the happy medium. There's a price point that gets you a good amount of submissions and actually makes you money.
So if they went up a little bit if SGC said, okay, we're going to charge $12 for TCG, would that allow them to drop down their sport card market down to?
Probably not, because the majority of the cards are getting are sports.
Right, that's true. I just
it's very heavily skewed sports. If you check out the gem rate, the reason they did that special is because they're not getting TCG at all.
Right, and CGC is killing it on the TCG market.
Yes,
they're clear number 2 behind PSA. So, and PSA is knocking. I think they're doing more TCG than they are non-sport as well right now. I think the last gym minute shows what seems like TCG is growing faster in the grading world right now.
Seems to me that no one plays these trading card games.
Well, I know
you don't think they're playing them in big old slabs, Mike? You don't think you're putting down your Pokemon
get the whole set.
They know how to play the video games, but not the card games. Because I have friends that collect them, have no idea how to play the games.
Well, I mean, I guess it's no different than sports because there's a lot of people who collect the cards and don't watch the games, as Ed would say. And in all fairness, like there are a lot of people when I'm at these shows, and obviously it's not everyone, but there are people who collect cards and they literally have probably never seen the guy play. They know nothing about some of the players. They've definitely never looked at the back of a card or read the card. It's
right.
So it's no different than the people who collect, Pokemon things or Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever's popular. Now this Disney thing that everyone's going nuts over, and don't know probably much of anything about the actual card or what its characteristics are.
Right, right. And I mean, I guess with anything that booms, that's kind of what goes on with it. But, it just seems weird that this TCG and SGC, their obsession over getting a part of that market where maybe that, when do you go, well, that's just not it for us. We're going to stick with what we know, what got us here, which is, uh, don't, because how fickle the guys that grade the old men cards, they you turn your back on them, they're not going to come back to you. They're going to go to PSA. So I just hope they don't forget who got them to the dance.
I mean, I think that's just why they're having a special, just to add a little bit to it. I don't think that's their sole focus.
Right.
They obviously they knew they needed to shift and try and get that modern market to a degree, at least some level of it, to to continue to grow the business and such. But I'm pretty sure they're well aware, and they still do really well with vintage. And I mean, pre-war. Like, I don't see why you would submit pre-war anywhere besides SGC, but maybe that's just me.
Right.
I mean,
right.
when I occasionally see one in a CSG case, I'm like, that just doesn't look right.
Right.
And I mean, PSA is, it's is what it is, but
Right. Yeah. It just to me, you're starting to see more and more. I think now they are getting some guys that are so strung up on PSA that are turning to SGC a little bit for the turnaround rates. For
Who
the
are these
selling
people,
purpose.
Scott? I'm literally watching the gem rate data, and the numbers are pretty much about the same.
Not enough to make a change in gem
I was going to
rate.
say, like, so
PSA,
they do that, and then somebody else drop dead. Is that what you're talking about?
my
Because the
my
difference is
whole
minor.
thing is gem rate. To me, I don't know how legit those numbers are.
Scott, it's based on the pop report. The gem rate literally pulls it based on the pop report.
Right, and I understand.
They add
that.
new cards, they make the number go up. That's it. That's all it is.
As they get graded. PSA, we know hold cards back. I know
But that doesn't matter though. You're only getting for that month. So in reality, there's more cards coming after. You're getting only that month's data. The cards that haven't been added yet do not get added. It'll get added next month.
Right. It just seems like it's pretty much PSA's the same. They like to have that number stay about the same. And for whatever reason, I don't really. To me, it doesn't matter. I collect the cards. The flip is secondary, tertiary. It does make a difference on what I'm going to pay for that card. I'm not going to pay a premium, just like I was messing with Ed earlier this week on his video. He would not pay a PSA grade on a CGC card because the market doesn't show that. I'm not ignorant on that, and I'm going to pay according to that. And I called him a PSA snob jokingly but we know there's a PSA premium out there. Even I know there's a PSA premium, and are you willing to pay it or not for that card? But when he bought a CGC card, he wasn't going to pay the PSA premium for the CGC flip, and that's understandable. But I just wanted to ask some of those questions, some things on my mind. I want to thank Carlos for clearing up some things I've been thinking about with the wrestling, especially with the Panini thing. It's time for Panini to just take their ball and go home.
Thought you were going to say that they were going to move into the sandwich making business.
Look, I co-sign on the sandwich making. I love sandwiches. I also think in a related note, they should join Jimmy Garoppolo in leaving, because I just watched him making a truly atrocious throw a couple minutes ago. It was truly tragic.
Yeah, I saw it too.
But it was two back-to-back really garbage throws. I'm like, can we cut this guy? Can we cut him on the field?
Well, he got hit a few plays ago, and I don't know if that's messing with him or not. But anyway, I want to thank you, Carlos, for coming in for the wrestling stuff. Clearing, but at least answering questions with your best opinions, and we'll see what they. I think that's very good opinions. And Mike, thank you for jumping on. I know you're a busy guy, a lot of stuff going on. You got 3, 4, 5 jobs going on right now. So until
Got a
next,
bunch of stuff to pack too.
like, share. Well, I need to talk to you after we get off air about something.
Oh,
Like, share, tell a friend. Until next time, see ya.